Hello. I'm just sitting here by my Halloween fire with have to have that light on, but it's actually a little bit too bright with it for me. I hope you don't feel like there's an interrogation in progress or anything. It's not very nice having a light there. But I posted on my community tab earlier that I got this freebie book today, these kind of little libraries. And I'd pass by this place today, and I always have a little root around in the books in it. It's only a little case, but people donate books. And this one is the Penguin Book of Japanese Verse, and it's a 60s book, translated with an introduction by Geoffrey Bonus, Bownas, and Anthony Thwaite. It's a lovely cover, but I just flicked it open, and I'm not familiar with a lot of the poets in it, but it's nice because it's a history as well. It has a big long introduction to Japanese poetry of different ages, which is very interesting. And I love picking up freebie books or thrifting books because you often buy things you wouldn't normally read. And a lot of these poems are like little stories, and some of them are like really, really short. This isn't one of the super short kind of haiku style ones, but it's such an interesting story that I looked it up afterwards. And there are other versions of it, and the other versions of it bring up weird weird ideas about the story. And I suppose poems and stories and films and things, if they make you think afterwards for a while about them, that's great. But it's a really nice little poem, so I thought I'd read it for you and see if you think it's a poem that makes you really, really think, because I thought it was very strange after I read it, and that's why I looked it up. So it's by a poet called Ryokan, and I might not be pronouncing that right, or Y-O with two little umlauts or whatever you'd call them. I don't know what you would call them in Japanese, K-A-N. But I went to this poem because he was the only poet I knew in the book, and he had written a lovely poem that I came across online about a butterfly. And I thought, wow, he's a really good poet, but I think he was an 18th century poet. So he wrote this poem called The Hare in the Moon. And as I say, it's a really short one, but it's about the hare in the moon. Long, long ago, they say, lived a monkey, a hare, and a fox. Together, they formed a bond of friendship. In the day, they romped in the hills and fields. At night, to their forest they returned. And so time passed, until the God who lives in the eternal heavens heard the story. But is it true? He asked, and turned himself into an old man, teetering along to sea. There he found them, just as he had heard, romping and playing, their hearts made one. Resting his limbs a while, pausing to get his breath, he threw away his staff and shouted, "Help me, help a hungry old man." "That's not hard," they said. And then, quick as a flash, from the copse behind, the monkey gathered berries. From the river bank in front, the fox snapped up a fish. But the hare, hopping all about the place, did not a thing to help. Oh, that hare! His ideas always different, they cursed, but all to no good. Then, break these twigs, said Monkey. Light a fire, said Fox. Hare did as he was told. And then into the smoke and flames they hurled him and served him up to the old man, all unwitting. He lifted his eyes to the heavens that last forever, sobbed and wept, and then rolled prostrate on the ground. Soon, beating on his breast, he asked, which of the three, these three old friends, which treated me the best? They were all kind. And yet thinking that the hare was the finest of them all, he took him, dead, and cast him high up to the palace of the moon in the heavens that last forever. Even till today, this story has been told, how the hare came to live up in the moon, and we too, as we hear, dampen with our tears the white hemp of our sleeves. It's a really weird poem because it starts out and it's a really happy poem about these animal friends romping and playing, and it tells you that their hearts were made one by their friendship, basically. And this god that came down found it hard to believe clearly that it was true, because he asked, but is it true? So he wanted to check for himself if this perfect friendship was possible, you see. This is what's so weird about the whole thing. It gets weirder as you start looking at the things. The weirdness of the poem seeps in as you're reading it, and then it stays with you afterwards, and you go, something isn't sitting right in that. It's very weird. It's like a kind of a koan or something, you know, that you have to ask yourself about. But clearly, they couldn't have been that good a friendship, could they? Because they weren't as one, were they? Because the fox, according to the other one, the hare, he said about the hare, his ideas always different. They cursed. So, you know, obviously the other two animals agreed on that. So they were both complaining about him. And yet, then it gets weirder, because when they then asked him, he wasn't helping. The hare wasn't helping to feed the god. Gods, I was seeing this in the Odyssey a lot. They come down to Earth to check what the humans are up to, and they always come in disguise. You know, Athena was always up to that. But when he said he was hungry, it's sort of giving them a task to see how they'll perform, kind of, you know. They're always giving them humans little tests, you know. So they performed very well, and it was true, like they were working as a great team, weren't they? Except that the hare wasn't helping, because he was bouncing all over the place. But hares will do that, won't they? Bounce all over the place. So was he just conforming to his nature or what? But they didn't like his nature because it wasn't cooperative, you see. So yet it was, because he didn't cooperate once. But when he was asked to light the fire, he didn't go and help get the berries or catch the fish, but he did help to light the fire. And he did as he was told. So he was told to break the twigs, and he was told to light the fire. So he did both of those things. So was it a little unfair of the other two, you see? These are the questions we have. So he was uncooperative sometimes, but do they expect cooperation all the time? Is he, you know, does he have to be a team player all the time? So, and then the god was obviously a very compassionate god, because he was very upset about the other two, who were supposed to be friends to the hare, throwing him on the fire and serving him up for dinner. And that was a bit overkill anyway, because they had a fish already. The guy had berries and a fish. You'd think that would be enough. That's a real fit for a god, isn't it? So poor hare came to a nasty end after building the very fire that he was sacrificed on. And whether the god ate him or not, I don't know, but he was probably too upset because he was sobbing. But why then did that god think that the hare was the best of them? This is never explained why he thought it was the best of them. So between all the friends, they had all given something to the meal. Even the hare had lit the fire and gotten the sticks together for the fire to cook the fish, and himself, it turned out, but he didn't know that's what he was helping with at the time. So why did that god think that the hare was the best of the three of them? Well, I like the ending where he gave him a reward because he was possibly, why was it? Was it because he was the best, or was it because he touched his heart most? You see, was it that the hare stimulated his compassion most? Perhaps that was it. Because I had trouble with this poem, I have to say, the meaning of it. And a lot of these sort of some of the little short ones, the haikus, I was flicking through the book, a lot of them are about nature. And they don't all do this to you, make you kind of have questions and everything. But there are little questions in the details that they paint, because they'll paint a beautiful little short thing about nature. And then you are supposed to paint the picture in your mind yourself and have your own feelings about it. So I like that very much about that kind of poetry. However, with this particular story, The Hare in the Moon, when I went to look it up, because I wanted to see what people thought of it as a poem, and whether somebody had ideas about the meaning of it, or whether somebody else would think, well, that's there are a lot of contradictions in that poem, and whether somebody else would be online discussing them. I find that interesting, to go off and look at what somebody else thought of a book I was reading, or not so often a poem, but sometimes a poem. And it turns out that's a very important myth in various Asian parts, and important in Buddhism and everything, And the guy that wrote it was a Zen monk. And compassion was very much his thing, being a Zen monk. But there is another version of the story that's the more popular one that is turning up online. I can't find this version of it online. So whether this was the poet's version of it or a popular version, I do not know. Maybe somebody that knows might let me know in comments. But on my admittedly very short looking it up, the version of it that they had online as the legend that traveled to various different places in the world, but is associated with Buddhism most, is that the hare sacrificed himself on the fire. He threw himself on the fire to feed the starving beggar, basically, that he didn't know was a god. And a kind of an idea, a very big idea in any kind of Buddhist tradition, is that there is a god in every person, a Buddha nature, if you like, in every person. That Buddha isn't really God, he's human, that it's within human capabilities to have a godlike nature, you see. So, but that's a godlike act, isn't it? To throw yourself in a fire to feed a starving stranger. That makes more sense, that version of it, to this one, because this version of it is about betrayal, isn't it? Really. It's about friends betraying other friends. So the god who was the beggar looking for food in that story would have been weeping bitterly out of compassion for the hare, but also, I would think, at the thought of the perfect friendship not being a perfect friendship, because they make a huge thing of that in that poem. That is the part of the poem in the beginning that's so beautiful and perfect, before it turns into this this weird, creepy sacrifice, because you're quite shocked when they throw the hare on the fire, you see. So this is really interesting. If this is only the poet's version, and not like a popular myth version, I don't know if it is. But in that case, it's about betrayal and being bitterly disappointed to the point of of tears to see friends betray each other like that. Um, Terrific poem, though. Such a terrific story, but it does kind of end happily because the hare got a reward. He got kind of an everlasting place in the palace of the moon, and the hare apparently turns up quite regularly in mythology. That's the thing with mythologies. People tell the same stories over and over again, and they keep turning up. So I don't know. I suppose that's a little bit Halloweenish. That story is Halloween tonight. It's a little bit Halloweenish because it's got a moon, a creepy aspect to it, and I'm sure I'll enjoy this book. I'll enjoy the introduction about all the different poets through the ages as well. So I was delighted getting that. Um, I'm going to turn off that light again now because I'm hiding from the kids because I don't have any sweets this year. And I don't know what to say to anybody who calls the door. So I'm turning off the lights and hiding. So if you like Halloween stories and you haven't seen my Halloween video upload yet, go over and hear that story. I'm doing some carving of turnips and telling a story about the two figures that are the turnips, jack-o'-lantern and the devil. So a story about that. A lot of you have seen that already, and not that many people make it over to my live streams anyway. So I will have a video upload for you soon, but I have to go off and do my guitar practice, which I won't inflict on you tonight. See you. Have a good Halloween. Bye.